Today is Dr. Praveen Kumar Biswas, Director GH Raisoni College of Engineering, Dr. Priti Bajaj, Supervisor Dr. Mauni, Dean R&D Dr. E.S. Wankhede, faculty members and dear students, a very good morning to all of you. I, Shivani Giriguje, Associate Dean R&D, feel privileged to welcome you all to the PhD pre-submission seminar of two PhD scholars of Electronics Engineering Department. Mrs. Soni Chaturvedi, Electronics Engineering Department, on topic reconfiguration of spiking neural network for optimization with application to image processing. And Mr. Rakesh Agarwal, Electronics Engineering Department, on topic advanced techniques for classification of remotely sensed images. Dr. Praveen Kumar Biswas is Professor and Head of Department, Electronics and Electrical Engineering Institute, Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. His research interest is image processing, computer vision, automated visual inspection, multimedia network, pattern recognition, sensor network. He is a senior member of Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineer, USA. I would like to invite Dr. Priti Bajaj to present floral bouquet to respected guest, Dr. Praveen Kumar Biswas. Thank you, ma'am.
Respected guides and my dear friends, today I am present pre-submission seminar on advanced technique for classification of remotely sensed images. The talk is divided in three parts. In first part we have an introduction. In second part we talk about multispectral images, issues related to multispectral images. In that part I propose a multi-objective PSO based technique for adoption of optimal neural network. And in my third part, I talk about the hyperspectral images, and in that I propose adaptive lifting scheme to extract lower dimensional feature vector. I expected to complete this talk in 1 hour. Remotely sensed images are the images of Earth's surfaces which are acquired from a distance at a remote place through satellites or aircraft. Sensors are mounted on that and they take the pictures of that Earth's surfaces. These are the valuable source of data used by public sector and government agencies. To name few applications of these multispectral data set, it can be used to assess the damage due to flood, or it may be used to estimate the production of crops. And so, because of the importance, it requires advanced image processing technology to extract all these information. Traditional approaches, statistical supervised approaches, include the Euclidean distance classifier, Mahalanobis distance classifier, MLC classifiers, but they suffer from certain drawbacks. The objective of our study is to efficiently classify each pixel into a particular land cover class. Now, the word efficiency will mean that we should classify this using small training set and with less computations. These are the two parameters. We'll focus on that. For that purpose, we use some feature extraction method and soft computing approaches. Now, to fulfill our objective, we have this formulated some sub-objective. First, collection of benchmark remotely sensed images. Feature extraction using some digital signal processing techniques, or feature selection using some soft computing approaches. Then we classify that pixels. We evaluate the performance of our proposed system using some quantitative indices, and then compare the result with existing and traditional methods. So this is what our sub-objectives are there. Now the contribution of this work, first we analyze the neural network for given application of classifying the satellite images. For that purpose, we perform 1050 experiments in MATLAB, and we come to certain conclusion, and based on that we move further. Second contribution is that we propose MOPSO based approach to find a most distinctive spectral band and optimal number of hidden neurons for the neural network. So through this approach we get an optimal neural network for our application. And lastly, we propose adaptive update lifting scheme to extract lower dimensional feature vector, which is then used to classify the hyperspectral signature. So these are our contributions. Now broadly, these remotely sensed images are classified into two categories. One is multispectral, another is a hyperspectral. Multispectral images consist of few images recorded in different wavelengths, maybe up to 15 images or 10 images. Data set is small. And hyperspectral images consist of hundreds of such images of Earth surfaces recorded in number of spectral wavelengths. I have collected three data sets. One is multispectral data set and remaining two is a hyperspectral data set on which we applied our proposed algorithm. This is the landslide satellite images of Washington DC city area. I got this image set from Gonzales. It consists of 6 images recorded in 6 spectral bands. Next. If you observe, these are the 4 spectral bands, and the classes, land cover classes which we get from this is a water, urban area, vegetation and road network. So 4 classes we have to classify in this particular case. Our second data set is a hyperspectral data set. It is images of University of Pavia, Italy. We got this data set from Professor Gamba from Italy. It consists of 115 spectral bands, and number of classes in these images are shown here. Next. This is some original images and reference data sets are there, so we can see various classes here. Third data set is again hyperspectral data set. It is images of DC Mall from Washington DC city. We got this from David Landberg, these data sets. It consists of 220 spectral bands, and 5 classes are identified in the images. Yes. These are the 5 classes which we want to categorize. This is that data set and reference image there. Now we start with the first part, multispectral images. Next. If I see the plot of intensity along the row in different spectral band, we get this sort of picture. So what this indicates that there is a frequency variation over a region. This is the plot of intensity value along one particular row in the image. So frequency is changing over the region, and frequencies are also changing among the spectral band. So we should take the advantage of this spatial and spectral information. So wavelet is one of the tools which we can use for this analysis. Next. Now what we did, actually we got inspiration from one paper written by Mr. S.K. Meher and Uma Shankar. They applied wavelet analysis to these images, but what they did, they applied the wavelet transform to the images, every spectral band, decomposed up to certain level, they got subband images, and they fully again reconstructed these subband images, and the reconstructed images are considered as a wavelet based feature which is given to the neural. So we called it as a fully reconstructed wavelet feature. What we did in our experiment that we decomposed the spectral band. We got the subband. Now subband consists of what? They consist of the frequency information. Approximate subband, we have a horizontal subband, vertical and diagonal. Means they consist of the information in this direction. So we selectively reconstructed this subband instead of fully reconstructing every subband there. So that is our first experiment, multi-resolution analysis. So this is just a flow, block diagram of our flow, that we have the images. We applied the wavelet transform to this two-dimensional signal. We got subband images and selectively we reconstructed it, and after reconstruction, when we cascade that reconstructed images, at each pixel location we get a feature vector, and that feature vector is then given to the neural classifier to classify into the line calculus. This flow will remain same throughout the first, second and third. What's that? Decomposition.
Next part is the synthesis. When you are reconstructing it,
Huh.
how are you reconstructing?
Using inverse wavelet transform.
No, you said it is selective reconstruction.
That I am explaining. That I am explaining next. Next. Now, what we did actually, in our first experiment, we reconstructed the approximate subband at a level 2. We have 5 images of our multispectral data set. Each image we decomposed up to level 2. So at level 2 we got approximate subband, horizontal, vertical and diagonal. So out of this we reconstructed only approximate subband of all these 5 spectral band, that is from the level 2. With this we got the accuracy of 70. In our second experiment, what we did, we reconstructed the approximate subband from level 1 only. The input images remain same, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. We decompose it up to level 1, we got the approximate subband, we only reconstructed that subband. So we are using only low level frequency things. We got accuracy of 89%. In first case we got the accuracy of 79%. In second case we got the accuracy of 89%. What is the reason for that? Actually, in second case we have used the LL subband from level 1 itself. So we have additional high frequency information of horizontal, vertical and diagonal subband, which are missing in our first experiment where we use the approximate subband at level 2. So we miss some part of high frequency component. So this experiment indicates that for classification purpose we need the high frequency component. So that is what we consider.
The first experiment is in the oil field.
I'm talking about that, sir. I'm talking about that. I will talk about that. Next. This is what we did on multi-resolution analysis. I'm talking about that. So we continue with the experiment. So we reconstructed all subband level 2 of only 2 input images, V1 and V4. Now we are not using all images. We are taking just 2 input images. We are decomposing it up to level 2, and all subband what we got, we are reconstructing it individually. So number of features will become 8. 2 into 4, it becomes 8. So with that approach, I got the accuracy of 90%. So in this way, we did the experiment.
Now, what are the features? How do you compute the features? See, you have an image.
Huh.
After decomposition, you get the results. When you go for synthesis, you get an approximation of it because some of the information is not good.
Yes. Yes.
So your image, the reconstructed image, is
Huh.
if originally I had a given by image, after reconstruction I
It
get
will
it.
be of same.
So I get the same set of results. What are the features that you have to compute the features?
I'm doing that selective reconstruction, sir. So some information I'm missing.
No, that is fine. Some of the subbands you are removing while reconstruction, right? So your reconstructed image will be an approximate image,
Naturally.
right?
Naturally.
So if you consider only the LL subband, that is the approximation subband, your reconstructed image is just going to be a low pass filtered image.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't understand why you are using Fourier transformation, why you are introducing
Yes.
this complexity.
Yes. Yes.
That is the
Actually,
first one.
that is the.
1 minute, 1 minute. So by that, when you go for reconstruction, I get my original image, but it is nothing but a low pass filtered version of the original image that I have.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then from these images, how are you computing the features? What are the features that you are computing?
No, sir. I am only using the that coefficient which we are getting after reconstruction.
After reconstruction, you don't have coefficients at all.
No,
You have the
correct,
pixels.
correct, correct. That is correct. I am using that value itself.
So using the pixel values itself, you are
After losing that, after selective reconstruction, we are losing some value there, and we are using that pixel value in making the
then
picture.
what is this number of input features? 8. How does this 8 comes into
Yes, sir.
picture?
When I decompose only band B1 and B4 up to level 1, after decomposing one single image, I am getting 4 subbands. So I am decomposing 4 images, B1 and B4 band. So I am getting 4 plus 4. So I am getting total 8 images. Now when I cascade these images, at one pixel location I get 8 values. And that is my feature vector for that particular location, which I am going to apply to the neural network classic.
But on B1 and B4, you mean your approximate subband and
No,
diagonal
sir,
subband?
no. When I say that I have that multispectral data, which consists of 6
Okay,
images.
so you are talking about that band,
Ha.
frequency.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I am just taking 2 images for my multispectral, for my multi-resolution analysis. Instead of taking all available spectral band, I am just taking 2,
Okay.
and I am decomposing it, and I am using all 4 of each images, so it becomes total 8 images. So when I cascade these images one after one, at one pixel location I get 8 pixel value, and that is my feature vector for that particular pixel location. It's like
So how did you choose these two subbands, B1 and B4?
no,
Is there
these
any
are the
analysis on it?
no. This is just random experiment to draw certain conclusion. Now I am coming to the conclusion. Now this is last one, which is proposed by Meher and all. Actually, we got inspired from this paper. What they did is full reconstruction images, and they got 95% accuracy. We did selective reconstruction, and we also got some good accuracy in some cases. Previous one more. Now our first experiment. We also did the experiment using pixel value only, means without any processing using wavelet analysis. Now when I see the results of classification, percentage classification we achieve, I am getting 94% accuracy by using pixel intensity value alone without any processing. When I do the wavelet based processing, still I am getting value in the range of 90. Then naturally there is a question why we should go for multi-resolution analysis. So that is the conclusion what we draw from this multi-resolution analysis experiment, that for this particular data set there is no need to pre-process the thing using wavelet transform. Pixels intensity value itself can be used to make the feature vector, and then that can be given to the neural network classifier for the classification. But
I have my first comment here. This conclusion is a trivial conclusion. Right? It does not contain any information. Because by doing wavelet transformation and then reconstruction, you are actually losing information. The information which is already available in the original images. So this conclusion, according to me, it is trivial. You are not giving any extra information. Okay. So try to avoid drawing any conclusion which is trivial.
now we also got to know that even if I use the band B1 and B4, still I am getting the good accuracy in our wavelet analysis. So question arises, should we use all spectral band for making the feature vector. So here we have to investigate the effect of different spectral band. Next.
So, आपको मोबाइल देखना है। अपनी मोबाइल देखो।
Next. Now, through our literature survey, we got that most of the researchers have used all available spectral band for the classification. But what we are saying that does it always necessary to use the all spectral band for making the feature vector? So we investigate the effect of spectral band. Next. Now since we are using neural network as a classifier in our case, then we must look into the neural network also. The use of neural network for this such type of problem is not new. Many researchers have used the neural network for different neural network for variety of purposes. But we found one problem in that no one have given any criteria for selection of hidden layer neurons, number of nodes in a hidden layer neuron, because ultimately for classifier we have to construct or we have to decide what should be the number of hidden layer nodes. So no one has specified any criteria on that front. This is what we have seen from the literature. Researchers have decided the number of nodes in hidden layer either through some experimentation or by using some heuristic. So these are some outcome of literature survey. Atkinson have used number of hidden layer nodes 2n plus 1, where n is a number of features. Another researchers have used empirically 15 number of neurons in a hidden layer nodes. Next. So these all different sort of things they have applied. So in general, what we observe from our literature survey is that in this particular case of remotely sensed image pixel classification, people have used neural network, but they don't have any criteria on how to select the number of nodes in a classifier. So in front of us now there is two problems. We have a two problem. First problem is how many input spectral band we should use. Second problem, what should be the number of nodes in hidden neuron. So we work on that, and to solve this problem, next. So two problem we have: number of spectral band, number of hidden layer nodes. We are using neural networks, so we also decided to see the effect of remaining two parameters which are related to neural net. One is the initial weight and another is a training data set. So in all, we will see what is the effect of these four parameters on our classification. So what did in our experiment? We increased the number of spectral band from 2 to 6. So initially we started with 2 spectral band, B1 and B2. We go on adding one spectral band one after another. So since we have total 6 band, so maximum number of band used is 6. We also increase the number of hidden layer nodes from 2 to 8 for each of these input feature combination. Next, we have a training set of different sizes, 5 pixel for each class, 10 pixel for each class, 25 pixel for each class. And for each of these combination, we use 10 different initial weights. So in all, we conducted 1050 experiment to check the effect of all these parameters on classification accuracy. Now we got these graphs. This graph is related to the variation in accuracy with initial weights. These two are, this is for 25 sample training set and this is for 5. Standard variance, classification accuracy change, and number of hidden layer nodes. And these individually for number of input feature used from 2 to 6. Number of hidden layers varied from 2 to 8. And this is the standard deviation of variation in the accuracy. Now from that we conclude that, from this we conclude that with insufficient number of hidden nodes during, this is accuracy on the test data. It is again of the same size, 50 sample of each class. Training size we varied 3 different size, 5 sample, 10 sample and 25 sample. Actually there is one problem in this remotely sensed images, that the labeled pixel availability is very less because of the cost and complexity involved in sample correction. So yes,
Statistics is useful when you have
large sample size. Because of that problem, we use the small size training set. The researchers are actually working on an algorithm that can support small training data set.
What you can do is, instead of reporting standard deviation, you can report what is the average.
That can be percentage variation can also be. Now if you see this part, then number of hidden layer nodes are 2. So here I am getting large deviation. Now if you see the number of input feature 2 and 3, so all these graph, then what we see is a standard deviation is very large. So from that we conclude that the effect of initial weight can be minimized to a greater extent with the proper choice of number of nodes in a hidden layer and with proper number of input feature. So it does not really matter if you have these two things properly in our case. Second. This graph relates to variation in accuracy for different training sample size. So again, what we see here is that if the number of input features are sufficient, then the number of training sample doesn't matter. So we should select the training set size not depending on the number. We should have a large number of training sample.
While training this is a backwardation methodology.
Ha.
So how many iterations are used for training?
So we stop the training when mean square error reach up to 0.01%. Okay, and we set the another criteria for stopping the that training, that iteration number of iteration should stop at 5,000. 5,000. Either of them, either mean square error falls below 0.01% or the iteration should reach up to 5,000.
And in all these different cases, with the number of you started with the same initial.
Same? No, sir. No, everything is different there. I have varying all 4 parameters there.
You are comparing the standard deviation against a number of hidden layer nodes.
Huh.
Okay. So if I want to compare the performance when I have 2 nodes in the hidden layer
Huh.
with the case when I have say 7 nodes in the hidden layer. So in both these cases, whether your initial weights are same or
Different. No, no. I have taken 10 different initial weights.
no, then how you can compare? Your reference is still is changing. With different differences, how you can compare?
Okay. So I
See,
got
if
that.
I
Yes,
want
yes,
to
I got.
compare these
I
two
got.
nodes,
Yes, yes.
performances of these 2 nodes, my
Huh.
initial condition is the same.
Should be same.
If the
that
initial
should-
condition is different, I cannot compare them.
Yes. No, actually they are the same there. I am drawing the conclusion from my next slide, which talks about the initial weights. That's why I am confused there. I already told you that I am using 10 different initial weights. In that sense, I told you. Next. So from here also we got that conclusion that the number of samples in training set is not important. Actually the coverage of class distribution of that class is important. So we should not go by the number, we should select a quality sample which represents the distribution of the class. Next. Effect of hidden layer nodes. So percentage accuracy against the number of hidden layer neurons or different combination of input feature. So here again we can see here that with two number of hidden layer nodes the accuracy is small, and when we increase the number of nodes to 3, accuracy increases in the range of 90 there. These are the cases where the number of spectral bands are small, B1, B2 and B1, B2, B3. So here again we say that for this particular application, the network with the hidden layer 2 is not suitable, but hidden layer 3 network is suitable for this particular application. Now our last experiment, depending on the effect number of spectral band. So we draw a conclusion from this graph that when I am using only two spectral band B1 and B2, I am getting 60% accuracy. When I am next time when I am adding one more spectral band B3 in that, accuracy is increases to certain extent, but still it is very less. And when I add in next turn another spectral band B4, accuracy jumps in the range of 90. Now this indicates that when I add the band B4, accuracy increases, means it brings more useful information for the classification. Before that, I have band B1, B2 and B3. They are giving me an accuracy in the range of 60 to 70%. So this indicates that adding a spectral band does not necessarily increase the classification. That added band should bring certain distinctive information, then and then you get the increase in the accuracy. So here, by the addition of spectral band B4, I am getting the good accuracy. So here again, what we previously said, the number is not, number of spectral band we are using is not important. The information provided by them is important.
Did you get any case where you have added a spectral band, but accuracy is not improved? Was there any such
To
case?
some extent we can observe here, sir. This is for band B1 and B2. And when I add the band 3, the increase is insignificant. Increase in accuracy is insignificant.
This insignificance is application.
It is application point of view, correct?
Right?
Yes.
But when you are drawing a conclusion that addition of spectral band not necessarily improves accuracy, you don't have any data supporting that. You can only draw a conclusion like that when you find that after addition of a new band, the accuracy does not improve at all, or there is a decline in accuracy. That may also happen. Right? There is something called dimensionality curves. So by adding new and new dimensions, new and new spectral bands, you are increasing the dimensionality of the character. So there may be a point where if the dimensionality is very large, your accuracy may actually fall. It will not improve.
That is a curse of dimension.
Yeah. But in your case, you don't have any such data.
There is no drop in accuracy.
So this conclusion should not be drawn. Right? But as I said, that which bands to include, that depends upon what are the classes that you want to identify. Right? So for example, if you want to identify water body, maybe few of the bands does not give any signature in water body. So by addition of those bands, you will not get any improvement. Right? So this will be application dependent. I mean, what are the bands that you want to improve?
Next. So we have a stage where we formulated our problem based on previous outcome. Our conclusion, the dependency on the initial weights can be reduced to a great extent with a proper choice of input feature, sufficient number of hidden nodes, and adequate sample size. If we have these three things, initial weight will not cause the change in accuracy. Next conclusion we draw is that increasing sample size do not necessarily increase the classification. Number is not important, quality of that sample is important. That is the second conclusion. Third conclusion is about the number of hidden nodes. What we see is that with 2 hidden nodes, the accuracy is very less, but with 3 number of hidden nodes and all other thing is properly satisfied, I am getting the good accuracy. So this indicates that for this particular data set and application, I need a neural network with at least 3 hidden layer nodes. If I increase beyond that, it does not affect any our accuracy. It will increase our computation time, training time, but it does not affect the accuracy. So for this case, minimum number of hidden nodes is 3. And last conclusion we drawn is about the input feature, that classification accuracy is not a function of number of input feature. It depends on the information provided by that feature. So we must have some methodology to select the feature. Next. So here is our problem. The conclusion is that if we want a good accuracy, we should have 2 things with us. One, most discriminative spectral band we should select, and second, we should have a proper number of nodes in the hidden layer. Now to compute these 2 things automatically, we propose a multi-objective PSO-based approach. Now these are my literature survey we gone through on these algorithm, evolutionary algorithm. We have 2 options with us. One is genetic algorithm, another is PSO. We avoided the genetic algorithm because it has number of parameters to be defined and programming burden is large. We selected the PSO because it has a high speed of convergence. Next.
You have not answered one thing. That you said that distribution of the data set in your feature space, that is important for training. And that is true. Right? If my training set is skewed, my neural network will not be trained properly. It will not learn the data space. So how do you solve that problem? How do you ensure that the data set or the training set that you are using, that encompasses the entire feature space? Because even your performance of PSO will depend on that. So do you do any work in that direction?
Actually, we didn't do any work on selection of training set. But what we did is that through the help of MATLAB software, I randomly selected the training sample by observing the image. So that means I selected the sample from different locations. Suppose neural network is there, which is distributed throughout the images. So to cover all distribution of that particular class, I selected the sample from different locations.
So that was
For my
That was
discourse.
manual.
That is manual. That is manual. So I told I didn't work on selection of samples. So these are some literature survey based on PSO. So PSO is being used for neural network also. They are used for RBF, radial basis function neural network also to optimize this architecture. They have been also used to optimize the weights, but these algorithms found to be quite slow. In all our previous study, what we saw is that the PSO is being applied, but they determine only hidden layer. Input and output layer of neural network remains constant. Particularly in the case of satellite image processing, PSO is also being applied. So these are some examples where MO-PSO based approach has been used there, but they are applied for unsupervised classification. Now this is what our proposed PSO based method. Important issue in PSO setup is 2 things. One is how you decide the particle structure, and second, what should be your objective function. So we'll talk about that. This is the particle structure. Now, as I already told you, we want to optimize 2 things. Find most discriminative spectral band and find the optimal number of hidden layer nodes. So these are the 2 objectives. So this particle consists of 2 parts. First part is about the selection of input feature, and second part is about the number of hidden layer neurons. Now, since our data set has a 6 spectral band, first part it has a 6 element. Each element corresponds to one particular spectral band. Second part talks about the number of neural networks. So we decided that the minimum number of neural network can be 2 and maximum we can go up to 8. So second part consists of 8 elements. Now when I generate random population, then how we can generate the random population? So you randomly decide which spectral band we are going to use. Let's say I want 3 spectral band to be used out of 6. But which 3, that also we decide, and corresponding coordinate can be set to 1. Remaining coordinates can be set to 0. In the same way, you can think about the second part where we have a hidden number of hidden layer nodes. So if I say that I want 2 nodes in a hidden layer, so I will make 2 element 1 and the remaining element 0. So in this way, I can create a population of particles. Now objective function. The use of objective function is to evaluate our candidate solution. We have 2 objective functions. We should have 2 objective functions, and that 2 objective function must be in conflict to each other. So first objective function we have taken is a mean square error on training data set. This is related to our first objective of finding the most discriminative spectral band. And second objective function we have selected is number of hidden layer node itself is selected as a second objective function, and this corresponds to our second objective. Now if you see the relation between these two, first objective is mean square error and second objective is a number of nodes in hidden layer. So in our previous experiment what we see that if my hidden number of nodes are less than 3, if it is 2, then mean square error is less. So this is in contrast to each other. They are conflicting to each other. So we justify the selection of these 2 objective function in our application. Mean square error 1, and second number of hidden layer itself is our second objective.
Earlier you said that if the number of nodes in hidden layer is less, your mean square error is also less.
We did our previous experiment from that graph. What we observed that
But that graph said that if you increase the number of hidden layer nodes, your accuracy increases.
where
Earlier the graph that
no,
you showed,
if
can you go back to that?
yes, please. ते पूर्वीचे ग्राफ होते ना. हाँ, sir.
With number of hidden
There are nodes, the accuracy increases. That means your mean square error reduces.
नहीं, I didn't go. I think.
What does this graph say?
Sir, this is the
Number of nodes in the hidden layer, x-axis.
yes, number of
And
hidden layers.
y-axis is
And this is the
percentage, accuracy
accuracy.
percentage.
Now here, when I have a less hidden layer nodes, let's say for 2,
Mhm.
the accuracy is
Is less. Right.
But when I increase from 2 to 3,
Accuracy is
accuracy is increasing.
Accuracy is increasing.
In-
That means your mean square error is reducing.
Yes, mean square error is reducing.
So
Yes.
if you increase the number of nodes,
Ha.
mean square error reduces.
Ha.
But now what you are saying is
No.
just the opposite.
No, go to that part. Previous. Next. Oh,
No, we were going backwards.
हाँ, आगे चलिए, पीछे आ. हाँ, just slowly. Yes, go. Yes. Just आगे चलिए.
Yes.
Sir, actually in MOP also, whatever objective function we decided, both must be reduced.
Why?
Mean square error and as well as number of hidden layer neurons. And they are conflicting to each other. When I am reducing number of hidden layer neurons, my mean square error is increasing.
Your aim is that MSE should reduce. That is your aim.
MSE should be reduced, and so that we can have a good spectral band.
So that is your aim, not what you are getting.
Now these are the steps in that algorithm: initialization, search process, conversion, and classification. So these are actually the standard steps in PSO based algorithm. How to do initialization I already told you. How to generate the population of that particle structure. We randomly generated a different size population and we work on that. So if you sir permit, I will skip this part of steps in PSO. Next. Next. These are the parameters we used in our PSO based algorithm. Population size 10, 20, 15, maximum number of iterations, maximum number of input feature, maximum number of nodes. We already talked about that. Initial weight, acceleration constant, and particle velocity range. Some of these we have taken the standard value and some we selected through our experimentation. Now this is what we got the result. We applied this algorithm to find most discriminative spectral band, and second purpose is to find optimal number of nodes in a hidden layer. So if we observe these two columns, then what we get, let's first talk about the detected features. Which spectral bands are most discriminative? So what we observe here, band B4, B5 and B6, they are selected in every run of our algorithm. And in first place, we are either getting B2 and B3. Now this is what the conclusion here. Now if you observe our 6 spectral images which we have, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5 and B6. So out of that, our algorithm is telling that these are the most useful spectral band. Out of that, B4, B5 and B6 are selected in every run. They are there. But in first place, out of B1, B2 and B3, only one is getting selected. Now if you observe that spectral images, then these B1, B2, B3, they correspond to red, green and blue channels. And they are giving us the same information. And that's why our algorithm is also selecting any one out of that. And remaining 3 are there in every run. So this is the justification behind this selection, that the algorithm is properly selecting the useful spectral band. And second column, where we want to find the optimal number of hidden layer nodes, so we get the figure of 3. This also validates from our previous experiment where we observe that when the number of nodes are 2, accuracy is less, and when I increase it up to 3, I am getting the improvement in accuracy. So both these findings we can also validate through our previous experiment. Next. So that is what it is written there. Next. So after getting optimal neural network or optimal number of spectral band, optimal number of nodes, then we actually perform the classification. So this is the result we got. We compared the result with MLC classifier and Euclidean classifier. These are the size of training data size, some quantitative indices, X-Beni and beta indices, homogeneity, and this is of separation. So what we say is that using our proposed approach, we are able to classify all classes properly in that given data set, and we are able to classify some finer details with our approach which we could not with all these two approaches. This is the classified image of class water or river. So this is the river front we observe. And next, this is urban area. Next, vegetation, road network, and this is grayscale classified images we got. Now you can observe the breach 1, 2 here through over this river. So this is what we have the result. So we propose MOPSO based methodology to find most discriminative spectral band as well as proper number of hidden layer nodes. This is our second part.
Have you done one study that spectral bands, the spectral
Bands
bands which are
not being selected by this PSO, what is the characteristic of those spectral bands?
Wavelength wise they correspond to red, green and
No, I'm not talking about wavelength. Coming to the intensity variations. Did you check whether there is much of intensity variation in those bands or intensity is more or less uniform?
frankly I didn't check.
Because that is one experiment you can do, because if a spectral band is not really relevant, that means they will not have class information.
Yes.
And in such cases, it is quite likely that intensity over the entire image in those bands will be more or less uniform. Right? Only when the variation is more, those bands will actually give some information. Right? So you can just cross check whether that is actually happening.
This can be so done. Now our last part, which is on hyperspectral image classification. Now if I adopt the same approach, because in second part what we propose, that pixels intensity itself can be used as a feature. Now if same principle I apply to hyperspectral images, actually hyperspectral images consist of hundreds of spectral bands. So my feature vector will become so long. And if I apply my MOPSO based algorithm to find most discriminative spectral feature among these hundreds one, it will take too long time, because our particle size itself become too long. So we cannot use the same approach for this second kind of data set, that is a hyperspectral images, which consist of hundreds of images. So here we need the transform which can reduce the dimensionality of this long feature vector. So this is our second part. Next. So we again gone through previous work, what researchers have done or proposed to reduce the dimensionality of hyperspectral signature. So these are some few studies. They propose different algorithm, but they have a common disadvantage of high computational complexity. Spatial spectral kernel based approach is also proposed, but nowadays high spatial resolution images are available, so such approach is not suitable there. Some researchers have here used wavelet analysis for reducing the dimensionality of feature vector. So these two researchers have proposed that. Next. But what we found, the disadvantage of wavelet transform, that at singularity, wavelet coefficient tends to oscillate positive and negative, so they have both values positive as well as negative. They sometimes may have very small or zero value around the singularity, and they are not shift invariant, they are shift sensitive. So small change in singularity causes the large variation in wavelet coefficient. Actually, in hyperspectral signature, we want to detect the singularity because information lies there. Different ground cover classes have different type of signature, and if you see the different signature, the difference lies in the location of singularity, their slope and their magnitude, and we want to detect that. So wavelet transform has these shortcomings. Solution to this is a complex wavelet transform which is shift insensitive, nearly shift insensitive. Some researchers have already applied DWT for that, so we haven't gone for that. So we think about the complex wavelet transform. Kingsbury has introduced an efficient way to implement complex wavelet transform through dual tree approach. This is that approach. First tree gives us a real part, second tree gives us the imaginary. We applied this and we use the magnitude of that for the experimentation. Next. This is the graph of that hyperspectral signature. It consists of more than around 200 spectral bands. Different ground cover classes we see there. And if I compare everything what we say, information lies in the discontinuity. And we want to detect this discontinuity. So what we do? So we did the experiment. Means after applying complex wavelet transform, what features we should use for classification. So we did some experiment. And our conclusion is like this. Next. This is one example of grass signature, and these are reconstructed signals from detail coefficient used only, detail coefficient, and at various level of decomposition. So D1 means detail coefficient at level 1, we used only that coefficient and we reconstructed the signal. So this picture, now what we see here, at low level decomposition of detail signal, means when we reconstruct, these two singularities are getting detected here. And this smooth singularity we are not getting properly detected. If I increase the level, then from higher level or at higher level, we can say that all singularity information is being present. So this is one graph. This is the second graph. This is a plot of detail coefficient at various levels of the same grass class. So this is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 2. They are reducing by half each time. So what we observe, one point, magnitude. As I increase the level of decomposition, the magnitude of coefficients are also increasing. So this is the second point. And this is the third point. Our data set, hyperspectral data set, consists of similar classes also. For example, grass and tree, they are similar. Grass are not grown properly, trees are grown fully. We have rooftop and road. Same material is used in rooftop also, which are used to construct the road. So these classes are similar classes. So if I observe their detail coefficient, then what we see, the difference lies in the magnitude of detail coefficient. So we thought that we should use the detail coefficient at proper level of decomposition as a feature vector for the classification. So we perform that experiment again on the same way. We have a training data set, we have that hyperspectral images of every class, we decompose it at certain level, we got the detail coefficient, and we are using that detail coefficient for classification. So that approach is same as per our previous block. Next. So that is written, that flow is written. So this is what we have a result, tabular results. This is our complex wavelet transform based approach. This is Euclidean distance classifier and PCA based classifier. We use first 12 component in PCA case. So we got these accuracies there. Now though these two figures are very close to each other, but the difference lies in actual classification map. So let's see that map. Now here we have this classification map of that our Washington DC hyperspectral image data set, and we observe that all classes are well classified. These are the roads and these are the rooftop. So roads and rooftops are clearly distinguished. These are the grass, lawn, and these are the trees there. With PCA based approach, we are not getting that sort of classification result. There are some misclassification between rooftop and road. So this is happening there.
Do you have any result with wavelet transformation, not complex wavelet transformation?
Sir, actually with wavelet transformation, 2 researchers have already worked. So actually we...
No, but it is better if you compare that result with...
Yes, actually I have in second data set I have done that. So I will show. So that is what we told. Similar classes, rooftop and roads, they are very well separated with the proposed approach. Next. we compare this result with the previous studies which use the same data set. These are the studies done by different researchers on the same data set, and we compare just classification accuracy. So this is what we have this figure. Our approach gives 95% accuracy. These are the classifiers proposed by Landberg. We got the data set from them itself, and we got this figure of the overall accuracy. Next. So our experiment is successful. We got the good accuracy. But problem here is that again we are facing the same problem. It is very computationally expensive. It consists of 2 trees, so it is computationally expensive. So we are again nowhere. The results are good, but the disadvantage is that it is computationally expensive. So we need a transform which not only reduces the dimensionality, but it also reduces the computation. So while searching, we got about lifting wavelet transform. We got the information about the lifting wavelet transform. The advantage of lifting wavelet transform itself is that it has less computation and it requires less memory. So we work on that. Next. So these are some literature survey on lifting scheme. What we observe, literature without this particular application or literature with remotely sensed images. Lifting scheme is used only for 2 purposes. One for compression, another for denoising. No one is work on the classification side. Next. These are some literature review. So just before going to our proposed method, previous one, lifting scheme consists of 2 stages. First stage, lazy transform. Second step is predict. Third step is update. In first step, what we do, we simply split the signal in 2 halves, even index and odd index. Nothing is done. That's why its name is given lazy transform. It does not do anything, only split the signal. Then second step is a predict step. In this step, what we do, we predict the odd coefficient from even. So we have to decide the prediction function, and that prediction function depends on the application in hand and input signal you have. And next step is an update step. In update step, we get the approximate coefficient and we get it from the detailed coefficient. And here we update the approximate signal to keep certain property constant throughout, because we may decompose it to certain number of levels. So some property of the signal should be constant throughout the decomposition. So that is the utility of update step, that it maintains certain parameter of input signal constant in the update step. So these are the classical steps in a lifting scheme. Just reverse. By the way, the meaning of lifting transform, lift means to improve certain properties of the wavelet. So this scientist has proposed the lifting scheme to improve the property of given wavelet. That's why the name is given lifting wavelet transform. Now our proposed scheme. Again, our aim is same. We want to preserve that information in the hyperspectral signature, and that information is nothing but the singularity present in the signature. So our lifting scheme should do 2 things. It should reduce the dimension and it should maintain that information while reducing the dimension. Next. So this is the block diagram. Lazy wavelet transform. This is our predict step, and this is the adaptive update step, and we get detailed coefficient and approximate. So first step, lazy wavelet transform. Input hyperspectral signature is split into 2 halves, even index and odd index. So we call it X0Z and X1Z. Next. Now here we propose a fixed predict function. We propose that P of Z should be equals to 1. Means even sample itself is the best predict of odd sample. So Pz becomes 1. This is the generalized equation of getting the new detailed coefficient. This is the even sample, this is the odd sample and this is the even sample. From even sample we are predicting the odd sample, and difference between them we are getting the detailed coefficient. So this is the general equation. When I am using fixed predict Pz is equals to 1, then I am getting the difference between two neighboring samples. Now how it is preserving our information? If our hyperspectral signature does not consist of singularity, it has a local coherence, then two samples are highly correlated, means their magnitude will be same approximately, so difference will be 0. When there is a singularity at that point, the difference between two samples will be large, so detail coefficient will be large. So information about the singularity will be passed on to the detail coefficient. So this is some equations. So Pz become 1. So detail coefficient is the difference of even and odd samples.
So how is your scheme different from Harvard?
No, up to this step,
This is Harvard, right?
it is set. Up to predict step. Next. This is the equation in time domain. Next. Now we have a adaptive update step. Here again we are motivated by the same principle of keeping the required information even after decomposition. Next. So depending on the region, we have adaptive update step. If the detail coefficient or previous difference is less than certain threshold, it indicates that there is no singularity. So we have taken the average of two neighboring samples. And if the difference is large than certain threshold, it indicates that there is a singularity. So we did not process that, we keep that part as it is. We forward that part as it is. So U of Z become 0. Update function become 0. So depending on the region, our update step will take either this value or this value. The threshold is computed adaptively from this formula, maximum d of n minus minimum d of n. So at each scale, the difference is changing. So this is what adaptive update in Z domain. Next. In time domain, we have this. So this is the last equation in time domain. So it is the average of neighboring sample if there is no singularity. And if there is a singularity, signal is passed on as it is. So with proposed scheme, we decompose our hyperspectral signature. We got the approximate signature. We are using approximate signature because the information lies in that. We are not using detailed signature. And we did the classification. We tested this algorithm on two data sets. One which used previously DCMOL, another is University of Pavia data set. Just previous. Next. Dimensionality of both data set is different. First data set having dimension 192, so we gone up to level 4. So our approximate coefficient length is 12. Second data set has a 96 number of spectral band. We gone up to level 2. So number of elements in feature vectors are 24. Next. These are the number of samples used by other researchers also for these different data sets. Next. This is our result. So this is proposed adaptive lifting scheme, and we also obtained the result with discrete wavelet transform. This is the equation result for DCMOL dataset. This is the result for University SIG. We use these different indices: kappa value, overall accuracy, mean, and standard deviation. For discrete DWT, we use two different wavelets, R wavelets and DB4 wavelets. For DWT, we use the detail coefficient as a feature vector because they gives me the more accuracy compared to approximate. And for proposed lifting scheme, we use the approximate signal because we designed the algorithm in such manner that information lies in approximate signal. So we didn't use detail there. So this column deals with what features we have used for classification. Now let's see the result. So this is the result of DCMOL. So we got the result with proposed approach. Again, all classes are well classified. Similar classes are also well classified. Grass, tree, rooftop, roads. Actually, this data set is complex because it consists of two similar classes, and there are subclasses of rooftop also. That all subclasses of rooftop is also classified into single class, that is rooftop. And the justification for that is a neural network, because neural network gets training through the sample. So it can also classify the sample which he didn't see during the training. So subclass rooftop, they are also classified into the subclass. Next. So this is the University C. So all 9 classes are classified, pseudo color image, meadows, trees, bitumen, asphalt, bricks. These are metal sheets. All these things are classified. Gravels. So this is what we have. Using proposed approach, we can very well classify the things. So at the end, I conclude my presentation. We proposed the two things through this work. One is a multi-objective PSO-based approach to find most useful spectral band simultaneously with the number of hidden nodes. That is applicable to the multispectral images. We cannot apply same approach to the hyperspectral images because of its dimensionality. So for that approach, we propose another transform, that is drifting based transform, and we got the good result through that. So this is what, sir. Nice, I didn't include it. This is first. This is second. Yes. I don't know about this, but these are index. This is comments applied in soft copy. This is a script.
Comments that I was making.
Any other comment?